Hello, welcome to Coffee with the Candidates for Yankton City Commission. We appreciate Jerry Weber stopping in to join us today to share some information about herself so you as the voters can decide which of the candidates is a good fit for you when you go to the ballot booth this spring. So Jerry, will you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you so much for letting me be a part of this. This is a nice way to get information out and to visit with you. I was born in Yankton. I currently am on the city commission, and this is actually my third term. I served from 1994 to 2000. For my real job, I am a clinical social worker, and I do therapy full-time in my own office. I am married to Jerry, and we have 2 adult kids and 2 dogs and 2 cats, so we've got a full house.
So I know you do some work with our fire department as well. Can you just share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've been the chaplain for the fire department and the police department for the last several years, which is providing support to the first responders, but it also, I can also provide support to victims, do victim advocacy as well. And so that's a volunteer role, and that's been really, really fulfilling. I enjoy that a lot.
Well, thank you for your commitment to that. I know it's very much appreciated in the community. So can you tell us a little bit why you are running for another term for the Yankton City Commission?
I have enjoyed the work. It's a difficult position to be in. It's been a hard 3 years, but it's been really challenging, and I've learned a lot about how to problem solve on the fly, and about all the different challenges that we have that face us. But we have such a good team right now on the city commission. And there are lots of loose ends that I'd really like to have a chance to keep working on before I'm done. So that's why I wanted to.
So as an elected official, it's hard to put aside your personal beliefs and represent the majority of the constituents. Can you give me an example of how you do that as a city commissioner?
Well, that's where I think I'm really lucky to have the experience that I have just in life. I think it is so important, if you're going to gather support, if you're going to get people to work together, to be able to look at the bigger picture and step back and see how we've got so many people with different backgrounds and different priorities here in town. And I think, if I'm honest, I would say that it's not always it requires a lot of collaboration, and it means that you have to think about what's the greater good. I think that's what good leadership entails, is thinking about what's not necessarily what's best for me, but what's best for the whole community, and try to make good decisions based on that.
So can you give some examples of how you get input from constituents?
Well, social media is pretty good, and there's a lot of input in that way. There is the City of Yankton has a website, and they've got email options. I go to church, and lots of times they will approach me there. And in the grocery store, I mean, there are lots of ways that people can, and I really do appreciate and welcome when I can hear from people, because when you walk around in the world that you live in, you make assumptions about things, and sometimes my assumptions are off. So I appreciate it when people can tell me how different things impact their lives and their families too.
So what are some of your priority projects for the community of Yankton?
I'm going to turn my paper over because I made some notes. There are so many things that are happening right now, and I don't have a solid... The thing with when you make a list like this is that you know that there's always going to be one more thing that happens as soon as you make your list. Things that I've been thinking about a lot lately, especially since we worked on the budget and strategic planning, is we're going to need to make some decisions about the SAC, the Summit Activity Center. And interesting, I was on the city commission when we built the high school and the Summit Activity Center, and I can't believe that was like 30 years ago. But now we're in a different place in our community. We've got different priorities and different needs now, and we need to think about what is the local government's responsibility to provide. And so the Summit Activity Center and all that is something that we need to talk about as a community and figure out what would be for the greater good. I've been serving on the Joint Powers Committee, and we talk about garbage and recycling constantly. And the single stream recycling has become very expensive. And so we're going to need to talk about, what do we want to do with that? Do we want to make some changes and adjustments to that?
So I don't want to interrupt, but a lot of people who are watching probably have no idea what Joint Powers is. So can you just do a brief overview of how Yankton is involved in that collaborative effort?
Yeah, thank you. I didn't think about that. Yankton and Vermilion, about 30 years ago, joined together in this Joint Powers Committee. And so we have representatives from the city of Yankton, from Yankton County, the city of Vermilion, and Clay County. And we share space and equipment and services. And so we are working together. The city of Vermilion has a little bit of a different kind of an operation than we do, but we work together, and it's been a really good way to pool resources.
So essentially a lot of things that go into our transfer station, or what some people would call the dump here in Yankton, it actually goes down to a facility down in the Vermilion area where they actually have the pits to dispose of the refuse.
Yeah, there's a big complex operation over there that works to take care of our recycling and our solid waste.
Okay, so thank you for that brief overview, and then if we can go back to your priority projects. Sorry about interrupting that.
Oh no, that's good. The other thing that's really near and dear to my heart is the Meridian Bridge. Again, 30 years ago, when we were first starting to talk about what are we going to do with this bridge, it was a novel idea to consider it'll just be a walking bridge. And I think it has added so much to what makes our community special. It's such a deep part of our long history. I would like to figure out a way to keep it safe and maintain it and keep it as a part of our community. So we need to talk about that. All of these things take money. The other big important project coming up is the wastewater treatment plant. We're making initial decisions about that. It's going to be expensive just to do the repairs that need to be done, and so we'll need to be aware of that. When I ran 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, whatever that was, if I had had any idea that we would be dealing with a 100-year flood, a global pandemic, and regulating the sale of marijuana, I never in a million years would I have dreamt that we would have been dealing with those major issues. But marijuana regulation is another component of things that we have to stay on top of and think about. How are we going to protect the community? How are we going to follow the law and follow the will of the people as well? So there's lots of things that are going on that we need to talk about and collaborate together.
Yes, very complex issues when it comes to regulation of that. And speaking of partnerships and collaboration, that's really important for Yankton to be partnering with other entities within our community, the state and nationally. Can you tell us what you would do to help strengthen existing relationships or potentially grow new ones?
I think just my involvement in the different boards and committees in my responsibility on the city commission, it's so important to keep building relationships. Yankton is a small town at its heart, and we are connected to each other. And so I think one of my gifts is to be able to connect and to listen. I'm a much better listener than a talker. These kinds of things make me terribly nervous. So I like to work together with groups, and I try, when I'm asked, I try to participate and help in any way that I can.
Well, I think the audience does like listening to you, so thank you for being open to this opportunity.
Sure.
Can you name one project that the city has accomplished recently that you're proud of, and maybe one thing that you think could have gone a little bit better?
There's so many things that, when I drive by the water park, the Summit, or the Huther Aquatics facility, we should be so proud of that. So many people were involved, so many entities. It was such a good thing for families and for our community. That was wonderful, and it took so much work and so many people pulling together and compromising and problem solving. Something that could have gone better. I don't know. I don't want to avoid the question, but I think in every project we do, there are things that we can do better, that we learn from every day. So I guess I don't have a specific idea about that, but I do think that that as we move through these complicated times, we need to be open to listening to each other, be ready to shift gears, and take wisdom from those who have done things differently and collaborate together.
And when you talk about the Huther Family Aquatic Center, who would have thought water walking would be a huge hit among our senior population? Yes. And those in the morning? So that's been a nice benefit of the aquatic center.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned the wastewater treatment facility earlier. So can you share a little bit more about your thoughts on that, such as funding and location?
Yes, that has been honestly, as a person with history in that decision, we did talk about that for a minute about 30 years ago, and we knew that it would be expensive, and we made the decision to do the repairs and keep working in the location of the facilities that we already had. Recently, when it came up again, I really struggled with what is the best thing to do, because I think that investing in the long future is always wise, but in looking at the budget and looking at location constraints and all of the unknowns in that project, I did eventually decide that it would be best to keep in the location that we're at and to do the repairs and the things that were already suggested in the plan with the consultant and the staff. And so that was what I decided after gathering information from all those resources, and so I know it's not going to be a simple thing, and I know it's still terribly expensive, but I'm hoping that we can work together and get a good project completed for the community.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. So in closing, is there something that you wanted to mention that was not a part of any of the previously asked questions that will help the voters decide if you have earned their vote?
I'm a Yankton girl. I was born here. We raised our kids here. I have worked here, and I have roots here. I love Yankton. My husband is a paramedic in Yankton County. I am a social worker here and a chaplain. I have enjoyed working for this community, and I have learned so much. And there is benefit to having proven experience and leadership to continue the work that we're doing. It's always exciting to see new leadership that comes up in our community, and we want to encourage all of that. but I would appreciate your vote because I've started some things, I've worked on some things, I've developed some relationships within the community and beyond the community, and I would just really like the opportunity to continue the work for the next 3 years.
Well, thank you, Jerry, for coming in with us today, and we encourage all of those people watching the videos to either vote absentee in advance or on the actual election day. So thank you very much, Jerry.
Thank you.